Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to
I watched European news and it changed me as an American.
Good evening from our CBS newsroom in New York on this, the first broadcast of network television's first daily half-hour news program.
Way back in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, the news media was widely seen as one of the most trusted institutions in the United States. But today, it sits at the bottom of that list, along with Congress in most surveys as the most untrustworthy Democratic organization in the country.
We're the only network that's telling the truth right now.
Fake news.
We're simply better than the opposition.
Politicians can't rewrite history on their own. They need enablers. They need media enablers.
It's one of those facts of
but the thing
everyday.
is, those are like the ones that they showed is like
Biased.
those no, the presenters' moment to give their own take. So it's not news; it's like their take of the news.
I think the problem is that it's on a news channel.
Oh,
I think the idea is that on a news channel there shouldn't be opinions. There should just be facts. If you want to have opinions, you can go on like ABC and have your own show. Whereas like if it's a news channel, it should just be straight up facts, period, no opinions. It should be unbiased. Because that's kind of the idea of the news, isn't it? It's just presenting the facts. It's not presenting an opinion.
American life that I imagine if you're a US citizen watching this video, you're probably saying, well, duh, did we really need a survey for that?
We apologize for adding to that nonsense and anti-human hysteria.
Everybody knows that the media has a bit of a credibility issue. But as an American who now lives abroad, I found myself wondering, is this partisan, untrustworthy reporting unique to the United States? How does American media stack up against European
No,
outlets
it's not
on their
unique.
ability to be
No,
transparent?
I mean it is unique.
you're
Unique,
confusing me.
nah, yeah, no, it's unique. Yeah, overseas in Europe, news is just presenting the facts. There's no opinions. It's just what it happened. This, then, that's it. You know, you interpret it how you want to interpret it. There's nobody like trying to sway you this way or that way.
There's this guy from England. The one who
Piers
got in.
Morgan?
Yes, yes. I was gonna say the one who got in a fight with
Yeah.
Ariana Grande. He seems like he's like very
He
like
has a show though.
oh
He's not a news anchor.
really?
He has a show. He's a TV
So
personality.
okay. Oh, he's a personality.
He's like, I would say you take him as a, I don't know, like a
I-
Jimmy Kimmel.
So he's not a journalist. Is he a
I
journalist?
don't think so. I think he's just like a Jimmy Kimmel type of. Obviously, his show is not like although maybe it is
Is it?
comedy show a little bit. I don't know, but I
Oh.
think he's just like a TV personality. He's not like a.
But he doesn't qualify as news.
I don't think so.
Independent and accurate. And ultimately, how biased is the media really? Well, let's take a look. Like a lot of stories about
Is there an
politics
inside?
and modern American culture, this story begins in the middle of the 20th century. Following the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, a major political realignment began to take place in American politics. A realignment that today has resulted in partisan ideological consistency on both sides of the aisle. As Democrats increasingly aligned around a liberal, progressive agenda and Republicans along a conservative one, it became more and more common for Americans to evaluate any number of policies, programs, and institutions through their particular partisan lens. While a political polarization upheaval was taking place in Washington, when the average American turned on their television to learn about it during this period of time, their news reporting was primarily limited to three major news networks: CBS,
Yes.
ABC, and NBC.
Yes. You were around, you know.
No, but at the time you only have the public broadcasting stations.
So you were around in the 60s. Okay.
With only a handful of channels available for broadcast, the United States government issued licenses to the networks and also put regulations in place to ensure fair treatment in their coverage, like the Fairness Doctrine, enacted in 1949. The Fairness Doctrine was part of the entrance of the federal government in the regulation of access to the airwaves for television and radio. In short, you have to have balance. So for example, if there's a presentation on one point of view, you had to have a contrary point of view. And if a public
Yes,
official was
okay.
attacked,
That's true.
they had
Maybe that's why they have like the CNN has like your on what you call it like a on deck Republican, and
Yeah.
I guess
Same with like the Breakfast Club. Like even like when I listen to them, if they have one side come in, they have to make way or make open for the other side to come to
I
present
see.
their facts.
Interesting.
had the right to reply. But as cable TV grew in popularity and dozens of channels entered the airwaves, Well, all someone had to do if they wanted to get a contrary point of view was change the channel. Theoretically. So the fairness doctrine was phased out by President Ronald Reagan's FCC in 1987, setting the stage for a radical transformation of the way Americans get their news. Today, humans across the globe, American or not, have more access to information than ever before. The problem that such access creates, however, is that this information, including information relating to significant controversial issues, is frequently presented in a very biased manner. Cable news is a business after all, and businesses run on ratings and advertisements, and in order to capture people's attention, it needs to be engaging. And it has, increasingly, blurred the lines
for
between...
me, it can be annoying because the headline is like everything is like a headline to make you listen, but they don't tell you anything really to make a fair judgment. You just hear like a perspective.
Yeah, I
And I
mean,
don't want to hear someone's
honestly,
perspective.
I don't watch the
truly.
news, so I don't particularly am interested. But
You don't watch the news, but you do read the news.
no, I read the news. I'm just saying on TV.
But don't
I
say
don't.
that.
No,
It's not cool.
no.
It's very unattractive.
What?
Go
What?
ahead. Go off.
What the fuck are you talking about? I don't watch
the news.
TV.
Excuse me. Only one person can be lost. It's not gonna be you.
I don't watch the news on TV. Period. Like well, to be fair, we don't even have a TV. So, well, we have a television, like a TV item. We don't have like a cable channels. We canceled all of that. We cut the
Yeah.
cord, so I
Yeah.
couldn't even watch it if I wanted to. But yeah.
information and entertainment. From Fox News to NBC, CNN to Newsmax, while their names include the word news, much of their programming isn't news at all, but rather opinions about the
Yes,
news to
exactly.
garner larger and larger audiences. And love it or hate it, the ratings tell us that,
I'm surprised they don't say you have to put disclaimer in the beginning. Like, when you watch something like a movie or a TV show, they have like a little disclaimer. By the way, this is like an opinion, one perspective. Feel free to look up for more information. Blah, 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 blah.
I think those is only for legal, medical, and tax. Because whenever you talk about those subjects, it's always, this is not a legal advice. This is not a medical advice. This is not a tax advice. Those are three topics that come to mind when you put disclaimers. Aside from that, not really. This is because this is not news advice. Like, I've never heard that nobody say. Because honestly, those TV shows, what we do here, it's a TV show. We give our opinion.
I was very clear. It's our opinion.
Yeah, it's our opinion. Yeah, so it's no different than what they do there on
No,
TV.
they like very proper.
Okay, you want me to put a suit on?
They put a suit on. They sit like that.
Get rid of my souvlaki stick.
Yeah.
Get an actual mic.
Yeah.
it works.
We keep kicking their ass every day in the ratings.
Like, for example, the guy that we react to, the one that he does the recapping the news for the month. The way he talks is like, I almost take him like very credible. Okay, he's really telling the news, but he can be again giving a perspective.
It's
I
just
don't know.
Everything is
I
perspective.
don't know.
Everything is
But he
perspective.
looked like very, very, very sophisticated, very official.
Like even this lady, what she's doing, that's her perspective.
Yes.
Number one, that's us. Probably the most powerful news agency in the world right now.
Despite ranking low in trust and high in political bias, among the 52 outlets polled by YouGov, Fox News and CNN top the list in terms of the share of Americans who say they've used each as a source for news in the past month. The divisive tone of cable news has become the very nature of its appeal.
I mean, it makes sense because CNN is known for news. Like basically the only thing they do is news.
Yeah.
And Fox literally has the news in the channel name, Fox News. So if you want to go news, it's either if you right, you go to Fox News. If you left, you go on CNN. That's kind of how it is. The two news channels. All other channels, they're not really news channels.
According to Gallup, who's been tracking this for decades, by the way, in the United States, in 1973, most Americans expressed a high degree of trust and confidence in the news media to do its job. Democrats at 74% and Republicans at 68% were generally on the same page about this.
What's happening now? We have the blur lines where the news want to also be the gossip channels.
Gossip is the money.
Yeah.
So people tune in. We here for the gossip too. We do gossip. And to be honest, some shit Trump be doing, it's kind of like gossip.
Yeah.
It's just like so crazy. Like some of the stuff you see, it's like,
he
oh,
makes
damn.
headlines and he has the people's attention.
It's just like tea.
But by 2024, while the media had lost
Because for the most part, before Trump, news were kind of stale. Like it's boring.
Yeah.
There wasn't like
Once in a
anything.
while, you have like this breaking
Yeah,
news, and they
yeah.
talk about it for like a
Right.
month. But
Yeah.
aside from that,
Now
now it's every
it's
day.
like every day something
Every
new.
day,
It's like
next,
it's like a TV
next.
show.
Yeah, yeah.
considerable ground with both groups, as well as with independents, by the way. The gap had widened dramatically, with just 12% of Republicans trusting the media, compared to 54% of Democrats. In truth, there is very little overlap between the news sources that both Democrats and Republicans trust.
And also,
Except for interesting
you have to be mindful that the media, they have to get money from their sponsors.
Yes,
They
and that's where the
survive.
biases come
Yeah,
from.
they survive on their sponsors. So
Yes.
they have to cater to a certain content to keep the wheels pretty much going, because the funding doesn't come from anywhere else but primarily for the sponsors, the ad
Yes,
space. It's
it
very
is.
competitive and limited because everyone's competing for those same resources.
It is.
the Weather Channel, which hilariously is the one media news source trusted on both sides of the aisle. But on the whole, just
I was gonna say
13%
that.
of news outlets are more likely to be trusted than
But that was a good example though, because the Weather Channel just presents the facts. So I feel like the news channel should be like the Weather Channel, just present because weather. What's your opinion? Oh yeah, I don't think the hurricane is coming tomorrow. Honestly, guys, I just no, I don't think so. It looks like it, but I don't believe it is. It's fake news. Like no, it's not that. It's coming or not. Like it's gonna rain tomorrow. Is gonna be 30 degrees Celsius or it's gonna be 15. That's it. It's not gonna be. Yeah, maybe 30. Maybe like I don't know. No, I don't think so. The forecast says 30, but you know what? I think they're lying. Like no.
And another thing they said that's always a fact is if when there's no school.
This is a fact. This is not a
Fact.
yes.
Or if it's called, yes.
distrusted by members of both parties. And those that are somewhat bipartisan are focused, at least in name, on the economy or financial news. These include, by the way, Business Insider.
But you know, talking about your point that you said that each channel has to make money, basically who they sponsor by. The weirdest thing was Fox News turned on at some point to see all the religious commercials.
Oh yeah,
I've never
yeah,
seen religious commercials on TV. I think for you,
but they have the money.
yeah, I think if you guys in Europe, you've probably never seen that on TV. That would be very entertaining to watch Fox News religious commercials. Like that is crazy. I just you need to advertise religion on TV. Like is that's what religion is now?
Insider, the Financial Times, Forbes, The Economist, and the Wall Street Journal. So, with wide mistrust plaguing the American media landscape,
You know what? I wonder if, like, for example, if some rich Muslims decided, you know what, try to pay Fox News to show Muslim commercials on TV to promote Islam.
The thing is, it would counter.
It would
the
counter.
Other
I wonder if Fox would sell out.
It would have to be in the extreme amount.
I
of
wonder
money
if they would sell
for
out.
a long period, over 100 years, guaranteed
That'd be
money.
interesting
It
to
has to be
see.
guaranteed
That'd be
money.
very interesting to see.
I had to wonder, is this sense of bias unique to the United States? Yes and no. Europe is by no means immune to fake news.
Here we have fake news.
It's fake news.
Fake news.
In the EU, spreading false or misleading
Even this
information
term fake
is
news, this come from Trump.
Yes. He created that term, yes.
So
It's
it's like
not
it's like bad because it's like American ways are kind of spilling over to other nations.
Yeah.
generally illegal. Freedom of expression includes the right to express incorrect views. And the distinction between fake news and legitimate opinion is often contested. Despite the EU's semi-recent decision to ban Russian media outlets Russia Today and Sputnik from broadcasting in the European Union, policymakers generally recognize that simply banning disinformation is not
what I
a
noticed is like when they say the term Sputnik, everyone from the east in my life always starts saying Sputnik. It's like a call.
Why?
I don't know why, but you didn't do it, so I was like,
I don't even know what Sputnik is.
you don't know what Sputnik is?
I only know
it's a-
Russia Today. I know Russia Today. I don't
it-
know Sputnik.
It's a satellite or a ship, spaceship, one of those.
realistic or desirable option. Canada, France, and Germany sanction hate speech while broadly encouraging a plurality of opinion and fact-based reporting by broadcasters and the print media. This means that in Europe specifically, fake news is largely concentrated on social media. The recently passed Digital Services Act by the EU is the general response to this, addressing illegal content, transparent advertising, and disinformation. But if we take social media out of the equation and
they
really
were
just look
on
at
it initially with social media because you would be flagged by these networks saying, okay, you're spreading harmful or misinformation. Now, since in the States, now that we have the new administration, everyone is like now going like Elon Musk,
He owns X. Yeah.
Elon Musk, and who was the other one? Zuckerberg.
Zuck-
They all and Jeff.
He's not social media though. Jeff.
But he went there too. He was like, if y'all going, I'm going to.
Mass media, that being primarily TV broadcasting and newspapers, there is a much greater degree of balance.
Because I
and
believe in
neutrality.
Amazon there was like content that like being sold that was false news that was being taken down initially.
When it comes to Western European nations' news media outlets. And in my opinion, that's because public news media plays a much more prominent role in Western Europe than it does in the United States. In 7 Western European countries surveyed by Pew, the top main source for news is a public news organization, such as the BBC in the UK, the SVT in Sweden, or the ARD in Germany, rather than a private one. And again, this is in strong contrast to the United States, where the largest public news
the
outlet.
BBC has I always known it to have good credibility.
Yeah, they say that if you want unbiased news, watch BBC. Because they don't have no bias. They're not exactly like directly affected by it.
NPR and PBS rank far lower than many of the country's private news outlets. A lot of European countries rely predominantly on nonpartisan TV channels as their primary news outlet. And because they're financed primarily with mandatory fees, they have a duty to provide content that is both educational and objective. So, for example, here in Germany, in accordance with the Interstate Broadcasting Treaty, the public broadcasters, with the ARD and the ZDF being the 2 largest, are obligated to maintain balance, and in particular, to maintain political balance. Now, I do think you could make the argument that the ARD leans a little bit to the left and the ZDF a little bit to the right, but these are nowhere near as polarizing left-right outlets as Fox News and CNN in the United States. Quite frankly, if something like Fox News
If you guys have some videos in English that like maybe how German news reports what's happening here in the States, it would be interesting to watch. And not just German, I'm saying German because she's talking German, but any like country in Europe, how they report these news, it would be very interesting to see compared to what we have here. Because there's a lot of news going on right now with Trump.
was to try to do business in Germany, it would likely get into legal trouble and probably lose its broadcasting license for lack of balance. By German standards, they are not considered a news channel, but a propaganda network. Now, that isn't
Like,
to say
for
that
example, can you go back? Like for this headline, Trump fights for faith in America. How would you make this not too salacious? Because right now it's salacious.
So what does it mean, the headline? Can you explain it?
Trump fights for faith in America.
What
I
is
guess
faith? Religion?
Like religion, yeah. Or trust. For trust in America, because right now,
For
everyone
trust
is
in America.
looking at America like.
So it's not religion, it's trust.
Yeah, let's do trust. Trump aims
Trump aims to restore belief in
trust in.
to believe in American strength or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think you have to replace fights for aims, or Trump's goal is to restore.
And faith is kind of like religion.
Yeah.
Religion.
Yeah, I think fights is a little biased to support him, that he's doing more than he should, and faith is plays, as you said, that religious angle, because Fox News are religious watchers.
Aren't very popular publications and media outlets that clearly and heavily cater to one particular partisan point of view. But they aren't going to be funded by public
Piers Morgan, there you go. That's
institutions. So
and
yeah,
because
Piers
Europeans
Morgan
have a
uncensored. See,
It's his own show.
Ooh,
so it's
yeah.
like,
Okay,
it's not
uncensored.
it's
Yeah,
biased.
uncensored. Okay.
If I put my name on, like, this is Beans
Yeah.
X21 show, this is Beans X21 show, it's Beans
Yeah.
X21 opinion, period. So,
Wouldn't it be cool if Beans X20 was uncensored?
uncensored?
But-
What sounds like a porn website.
Yeah. What it sound like?
Sounds the same.
But with him, I think he's the one that if people in America knows of a British person, they know his face.
Not
Like
just him, they know all the cooks, the chefs.
Yes,
So
yes,
it's-
that's true. But for him, I would think like he would look at least credible. So I can imagine like knowing that his is just uncensored opinions, like whoosh.
high degree of media literacy, they aren't likely going to confuse a political echo chamber with objective news reporting. But of course, Europe is
So Finns less. So these are like people that less likely to fall for fake news. So European
Oh,
countries and
how do you
Canada up
fall? What
top.
does it mean, like fall for fake news? Like like
You go and trust untrustworthy source.
without fact checking,
Yeah.
like you look at another source to validate
Yeah,
this
but I would
information.
think so, yeah. So as you see, US is 60%, which is, to be fair, higher than I thought it would be in this country. I thought it would be less than 50%. So 60% is a little bit not bad. But Spain is actually even worse. Spain and France, Japan, wow, Asia, Italy, ooh, Israel, Ukraine,
It's like
Ukraine and Turkey.
all my
Ooh.
South countries are like
Yeah, Ukraine makes sense. I think Ukraine sentiment is very anti-Russian. So if they show something positive about Russians, even though it might be positive, they're just not gonna believe it because it's probably, just of the sentiment. And Turkey, also a very
what
divided country.
what
So
is what is something that will help you fight against media literacy? Like
education, I think you just gotta get people educated.
Political echo chamber with objective news reporting. But of course, Europe
I don't
isn't
know.
a monolith, and
There's
you're
some
going to see
people that are
differences
educated
on
and
both the
looking at them
reliability of the
sideways.
reporting
I don't
and the
There is truth to that. Sometimes education is not everything. There is some
No.
educated people that when it comes to like their beliefs, I don't understand how you have these
I don't
beliefs
get
after
it.
you got educated.
It is something. I don't know what it
I
is.
don't
I'm
know.
trying to
I
put
don't
my
know.
finger on it.
I have seen those cases, what you're talking about, yeah.
accuracy of that reporting from one country to the next. As this graph shows, level of trust in the media are the highest in Finland, the Netherlands, and Sweden,
Lithuania is
and the
on a
lowest
list.
in Greece.
Well, Lithuania is unbiased when it comes to the media. Let me see the list again.
Trust in the media are the highest in
Yeah, Lithuania is high up there. Lithuania, how I remember, unless things change, they do have the debate shows where they invite people, but those are not news shows. Those are debate shows. So they invite both sides and they go at it. Kind of like Skip and Shannon about sports. They do the same thing about news. So they have those. But as far as like the news shows, new news is news, straight up facts. This happened at this time, and this was the temperature outside, in this city. There's no opinion whatsoever. It's very dry. If you watch Lithuania, it's super dry. It's not exactly interesting to watch. It's weird. Here the news are more interesting to watch because personalities and news. They're not news. They're opinions, but it's more entertaining. Like you can watch it for entertainment's sake. In Lithuania, it's not entertaining. It's one person sitting there monotone. That's what the news looks like. But they are facts, though.
Do you think? Okay, I think one reason could be because I remember in the Netherlands, they are free to really say what's on their mind, to really call it out. So if you try to tell them something that's like fake news, they're free. They feel okay to call it out. Whereas
So is
maybe
Germany.
yeah, whereas opposed maybe the other countries that are maybe lower on the list for like let's say media literacy, they're the reason why they're able to fall for fake news because first of all, it's not okay to challenge information given
Also,
to you from authority.
let's see the bottom a little
in
bit.
Finland, the Netherlands, and Sweden, and the lowest in Greece, Slovenia, and Croatia.
Ooh,
Okay,
I don't
I
know.
I don't know. I can't explain that. I agree when
Ooh.
because I saw Greece, so I was kind of making a point, but I don't think because
So what?
In Greece there's very low trust in the government, so I thought maybe we can correlate with the trust in the government. Croatia is a big
Oh,
corruption too. I don't know much about
yeah.
Slovenia, so
Why is
maybe
Greece in the bottom? How they have
maybe it does have to do with governmental corruption a little bit. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why it's towards maybe the less trust in the government, the less trust in the news. Maybe the belief is that if government can affect the news, the validity of
Yeah.
the news.
In general, trust in the media is highest in the Nordic, Baltic, and Western member states, and the lowest
So where's the Baltic on this map, huh?
Is that included?
in the
I
Southern
know where it
and
is though.
Eastern
Look,
member
is
states. Although there
you
are
see
some
where the
exceptions, but at
42%
a
is?
broad level,
You go up a
both
little
That's
bit.
everyday
Poland,
viewers and
42%.
experts agree. European news media outlets
Yeah.
are highly reputable and objective. An analysis of 226 news outlets across 24 European news markets by the University of Oxford found consistent evidence that the public generally has a high degree of trust in news outlets that experts also believe provide accurate information on facts backed by credible sources and expertise. But before I get too much further into the video, I want to give a big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring the
That was it?
a writer,
Oh.
a filmmaker, and editor. With you, I personally wanted to make a bigger effort to increase my productivity. Go to anyone and skill excited to Skillshare will anticipation of this trial of Skillshare. So get started today. Now, in anticipation of this criticism in the comment section, I want to address a caveat to this discussion of bias and the mass media. Although public broadcasters are, as their
That's Russian channel.
name suggests,
Oh.
funded publicly, they are nonetheless independent
Never
Is
mind,
there-
it's not Russian
Oh.
channel. Their logo, the Russian channel, I remember used to be like this #1 kind of thing, or I
Oh.
guess not.
So
news
what is
organizations
Sounds German.
in Western Europe, with their independence and freedom of press enshrined in most constitutions. Calling the BBC in Great Britain or the ARD here in Germany the same as Russia today because they are both state-sponsored media is a gross mischaracterization of them. That being said, as right-wing nationalist and populist parties grow in favor, they have also taken aim at public broadcasters, promoting the general suspicion that they no longer report freely, but simply tout the opinions and the favors of the quote-unquote left. Even in the United States, PBS, largely ranked highly for their neutrality and wholesome content,
I
has
grew up
recently come
on
under fire during the
PBS.
Trump administration for being quote-unquote woke.
We're simply saying that these institutions which are pushing leftism in our country cannot be taking taxpayer dollars.
Northeastern
So
University.
pushing leftism because they're unbiased. So by that he implies that being unbiased means you left, or being left you unbiased. Okay.
But the thing is, you kind of have to ask the question, are these TV broadcasters actually left, or simply promoting a worldview that appears to be left from someone on the right? And this sounds pedantic, but it's an important distinction.
That's the crazy thing,
It is.
because if the person is on the right, any deviation from what you have is
It's
gonna
left.
look left to
yeah.
them.
Yeah, it is, and that's what she's saying, but she's right.
At an international level, most public broadcasters, which are labeled as neutral or center in Europe, are generally going to be seen as left-leaning by most American viewers because, well, the left and right are subjective and are highly dependent on the prevailing political ideology. And that goes both ways. A report like this one, labeling Biden's far-left progressive policies, is utterly laughable to most Europeans. After all, the US Democratic Party would be considered staunchly center-right by most Western European standards.
Well, actually, I would like to correct something. I don't want to be impolite, but you just labeled our party as right-wing, which is not correct in my perspective. So we perceive ourselves standing in the middle.
But where and how do we draw this line between bias and balance? An international comparative study by Harvard
And,
University
even also, it's good to argue, oh, you're in the middle, because being in the middle
Means
is
unbiased.
unbiased, is neutral, is not, too excess or excessive, not excess, and then what's the opposite of
Excess,
excess, and then
too little.
too little? Yeah, too little. Thought there was a nice word for it. But you're like right in the middle. You're like balanced.
Insufficient.
Insufficient. There we go. Insufficient.
in 2017 found that 98% of portrayals of Trump in his first 100 days of office by the ARD in Germany were negative, more than anywhere else in the world, by the way. Now, you don't have to like Donald Trump, but these figures don't exactly express a politically balanced press landscape.
You
But at
know,
the same
even the outfits that they wear is so different from the outfits that they wear in the news here.
Oh,
It's like it's very professional, their outfits. Except this guy. This guy's wearing jeans.
I feel like they wear similar outfits here too. They wear suit jackets usually. No,
I'm
Not
talking
here.
even for like local news, like for Miami.
I don't know. As I said, I don't really watch.
Time if someone appears to be a fascist, power-hungry, narcissistic dictator from your world point of view, having someone scold you for not writing nice things about him seems weird, right?
You know, they say if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. I'm sorry. Keep going. I don't know where that came from. Go ahead.
And that's just the thing, right?
That's facts,
What is
actually.
neutral and what is biased is a constantly moving metric. And as political polling becomes more and more right-leaning, so too might the press. And by the way, I don't bring any of this up as a way to sort of exonerate the media for their lack of objective reporting. But reporters and journalists aren't umpires calling bats and strikes. Even the stories we cover and the language we use to describe them are subjective and loaded with meaning. I mean, do we remember the outrage when America's most beloved weatherman, Al Roker, dared to correlate patterns of extreme weather as a product of climate change? Yeah, even on-air meteorologists were somehow the target in the culture wars. It's
That is being biased though,
Yeah.
a little bit.
I
I mean, maybe if this wasn't a political issue, I wouldn't say it's being biased. If everybody agreed on it, but since people disagree on it, it has become an issue. Then it is being biased.
But isn't the meteorologist's job like to like
The meteorologist's
Yeah,
job
to-
is to present the air, not to make conclusions. As I said earlier, you don't
As
give
a-
opinions.
meteorologist broadcaster probably, but as a meteorologist,
Yeah. Because once again, it's like a very polarizing issue. It's not something.
but that isn't that their job to like study the weather, the climate,
But then again, though, all the fucking
collect
news
the data.
are biased anyway. So who cares? Like,
But then who do you listen to if they're specialists who supposed to be watching
don't
the weather?
know.
Like that would be their job. Like for example, someone is studying like a sickness, and
doctor.
then
Yeah, remember Fauci?
collecting
They came and they
collecting
Trump
information.
tried to diss Fauci. Oh, Fauci's wrong.
You have to make it political, but
Yeah.
those people they're entrusted with a job to you be professional and to collect data, and then with that data give like present the facts and give like the best advice possible. So I don't know if it got political, but
I mean, it got political because it's a political issue, but I think it's not wrong inherently because
maybe the bad platform he presented
doesn't
this
matter.
on.
All the news platforms are political nowadays anyway.
Yeah.
So who cares?
No,
Let him
well,
do what he does.
okay.
Seems. But ultimately,
I
when
guess he
you
should have had
take a
like
look
his
at-
segment. Okay, start after he gave us the weather. He gave us a different segment. Okay, dissecting the weather.
at the polling and the data around media and public trust, you have to factor in prevailing political ideology. Those who embrace populist views are less likely to trust their public news media than those who don't, and that's regardless of where they live. And furthermore, trust in government is also related to media satisfaction at the individual level. In most countries, people who support the political party currently in power are more satisfied with the performance of their news media than those who do not support the governing party. Interestingly, the United States is one of only a few countries on the planet where governing party supporters are less satisfied with their news media than non-supporters. After all, Republicans not only hold the presidency, the House, and the Senate, but also have a supermajority in the Supreme Court. Yet they significantly distrust the media more than Democrats. And you don't have to take my word for it. If you walk into any American diner for some counter banter, you are likely going to run into someone who says this. Nearly every news organization that feigns objectivity is heavily slanted towards the left. And the mass media is in cahoots with the Democrats to defeat Republicans and undermine Donald Trump. But why do they feel that way? Well, they might be partially correct. In the US, like a lot of North American and Western European nations, the press corps is mostly made up of liberals. Conservative outlets are not as shy about labeling themselves as such. In some cases, it's a badge of honor. But for as loud and noticeable as they might be, they aren't actually all that common. Most journalists, even at major news broadcasters, are going to be college educated, from middle to upper class families, and live in predominantly left-leaning cities. To some degree, they mirror the ideologies of the coastal elites. They're less likely to own a firearm, more likely to support LGBTQ inclusion, and are less likely to go to church. And so even
That's an interesting perspective she's providing. Okay. My counter argument, I guess, would be these big corporations are still owned by most likely Republicans because we know Republicans are rich. So wouldn't they would just simply get fired if they promote, liberal ideas of a right-wing owner, so that, I don't know how that would factor in, but she is bringing up an interesting point though.
even if you're a news organization who makes it your mission to stay objective, well, to quote A.G. Sulzberger, the publisher of the New York Times, if your press corps is mostly made up of one type of person who votes one type of way, it would be impossible not to be influenced by your prior beliefs and gaps in knowledge. But does this biased viewpoint rise to the degree of conspiracy to where they're silencing voices or working in cahoots to undermine a political administration? Well, it's certainly an enticing conspiracy theory, but in reality, there's very little evidence to suggest that this is the case, especially when it comes to the current administration in the United States. In fact, many experts in political psychology make the case that the liberal media, in an effort to not be biased, inadvertently contributed to right-wing parties and their candidates' rise to power. Take what happened in the
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see
Yeah,
that
we do see that.
because everyone can think that Kamala was gonna win, and it's like the whole news like it looked good, like a lot of positive press, but then you get a whole completely different outcome, and everyone's looking at each other like, what happened?
For me, it would be more so like Charlemagne said, because he said, the Republicans are fighting dirty. They're throwing all these like shady ads and like about the transgenders and whatnot, like saying not necessarily like factual things. So what he was saying, well, Democrats fight back the same way. Fight dirty. They didn't. They wanted to take the high road, and well, the high road led to Trump. They needed to fight the same way. That it wasn't a clean fight. It was a dirty fight. They needed to fight dirty way. They didn't want to, because they're above it. Well, now they're below it, because now they're not in the power. So
2016 election in the United States as a semi-recent painful example. Journalists and editors didn't want to be accused of unfairly laying more critique at one candidate than the other. So, in an effort to criticize both campaigns, the Hillary Clinton email scandal took up an unworthy weight in public discourse when compared to the
right. Remember the Hillary emails? That was like the whole thing. Who cares? But it was like everything that they talked about, and that's why she didn't win.
myriad of scandals of the Trump campaign. And now, the role that media coverage played in the outcome of that particular election is, of course, up for debate. But while Trump might certainly be the most vocal in his disdain for the quote-unquote liberal woke media, he certainly isn't the first to be at odds with them. The first U.S. executive administration to have concerns about the quote-unquote media and ushering in, quote, the mainstream media into the American lexicon wasn't a conservative at all, but rather the Nixon White House. Nixon regularly sensed that reporters held a bias against him, and according to William Safire, Nixon's speechwriter, described in his memoir that Nixon judged journalists to be his opponents and declared to his staff that, quote, the press is the enemy. And when I look at this issue of bias in the media, particularly from a point of comparison between the United States and Europe, it's also hard for
Nixon
me
was
to...
a Republican?
Yeah, I believe so.
But did she say he's a Democrat? Did she say that? Because I thought he was a Republican.
I didn't hear her say he was a Democrat.
Because she said that this didn't start from against the press didn't occur from
this administration.
Oh, okay. I thought she meant that it didn't occur with a Democrat, with a Republican. It actually occurred otherwise.
I mean, I can look him up. Hold on.
not see
No, I
this
believe
as
he's a
being
Republican.
a product of
I
both
thought so too.
history and ignorance. And gosh, I wish there was a better word for it than that, but I kind of got to call it for what it is. The United States has always been characterized by a degree of intellectual isolationism, while Europe has had centuries of close connections, pleasant or not, with other countries and cultures. And this connection obviously affects the appetites of consumers. They
Yes, he was a Republican. Yeah.
watch and learn far more about what is happening internationally than American viewers. And because the public news sources in Europe are both educational and objective, and watched by the majority of citizens, public sentiment about critical issues tend to be much more
Lithuania and
unified. So while I fully recognize that this subject of an American-centric point of view is probably its own video and a separate discussion for another day, I feel like I kind of have to bring it up, because if we're talking about bias and the media, bias is not just left versus right or liberal versus conservative, but also bias in how we learn, observe, and understand critical discourse. And the sad reality is that in the pursuit of clickbait content centered on conflicts and personalities, Americans end up following each other into confirmation bubbles. The more biased our media reporting is,
And social media pushes you into your own bubble, because the algorithms, they suggest what you watch. Like on YouTube, for example, I watch a lot like Lakers content. Then all they suggest is Lakers. So if I watched something like right wing, something with the headline Donald Trump is the best president ever, all I would get videos is how great Trump is doing. So, and I'm sure TikTok is the same, X is the same, Facebook is the same, Instagram is the same. They're all the same.
You would think that the algorithm would push everybody's content at some sort of capacity, because
They do, but they do to different audiences. That's what the audiences are for. If I'm interested, for example, the Lakers, they're not gonna suggest me New York Knicks. I'm not gonna click on it. I don't care for New York Knicks. So if I'm watching a video how Donald Trump is doing great, I'm not gonna watch a video how Biden did great. I don't care about Biden. I want to see how Trump is doing great. It's just they their job is not to show you both of the sides. Their job is to show you what they think you might like, so you're gonna click on it. So they don't waste the space. You know?
The more fractured public opinion ends up being. So that all brings me to the final question of this video. I would love to hear from you down in the comment section about how you feel your media sources are on being biased or not. And if you do feel like you're getting a biased story, how likely are you to?
Interesting. So do you feel you get your media news biased or no?
I live in an echo chamber. I know that.
I want to say
Sometimes I go and I look at the other side and I get scared and I come right back to my bubble.
I want to say I get news biased as well, but I think I'm intelligent enough to see through the bias. Because I use Reddit for my news sources, but for the most, I know Reddit is more like left-leaning social media, so I keep that in mind whenever I see, the headlines. But I'm not, honestly, to be honest, most of my news lately have been coming from these reactions that we do to the news, to that new channel, European news channel. So I feel like they are pretty unbiased because like when they covering Ukraine conflict, they were seem pretty unbiased, even though there's, I don't know how you can stay unbiased, but it seems like they did stay unbiased. So
For me, I base it on if they have colorful words. Like if it's like too much drama,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is like a tea.
that's a good one.
This is a tea. But if I see like it's presented to me in a normal manner way, I can take it. Okay, maybe I can take it. But then I go see around to see what others are saying and then try to decipher, okay, what's the middle of it all? Because it's not bad to go look to see what other people
Of
are
course,
saying.
yeah, you should.
But you wonder, like, some people, they have hate, so much hate in their heart, and when there's too much hate, I say, okay, this is not for me, not for me to consume, because there's a lot of information you don't want to consume and take all that in.
Yeah, but I feel like she did a phenomenal job with this
Yeah,
video.
I think she did the best coverage of this, like,
This was
very
a
thorough.
very, very good, very well done
Yeah,
video.
yeah, she slayed.
This was a phenomenal video. One of the best videos I watched.
Yeah. And I felt like she was fair.
Yeah, I think she tried to stay as much. I saw her bias a little bit, but
Really? Like,
yeah.
and what do you mean?
She was a little biased, saying that America is biased.
Oh.
Because if she was truly unbiased, I just felt like she's implying that America is biased, which it's very hard to stay completely unbiased in anything.
Yeah.
Like I also try to often stay as unbiased as possible. I know, like, at some point, like, my biases show, so it's
Sometimes I need this to show for me. Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. And as always, share as much kindness as possible.